Hey, what's going on, No Nation? CJ Wilson here with DoakTalk. Here to bring you guys a recap in regards to spring practice, my thoughts on spring practice, rather, my main takeaways from spring practice, from what I saw, first off, from what I heard from people who's at practice, Mike Norvell press conferences, just a combination of a lot of things. As you guys know, Norvell did kind of tighten things up this spring as far as media access, not granting people access to practices and things along those lines, but was able to piece a lot of things together from just third party information from actual coaches that was at practice, seeing some things from my own, and of course, the breakdown from Mike Norvell, coordinator, some of the players in regards to some of the stuff that went on during spring practice. As you guys know, FSU's spring practice was abruptly shut down due to the tragic situation that happened on campus at Florida State. But nonetheless, we're going to go ahead and get things going and just talk about some of the things that stood out during spring practice. Before we get started, make sure you guys hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Again, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel and join the Dope Talk community if you haven't already. All right, guys. The first portion I want to jump into in regards to spring practice that kind of stood out to me first off was the coordinators. I really like the coordinators in regards to Gus Malzahn and Tony White. What I like about is the mindset that they're trying to build. Right, the mindset that they're trying to build, the mentality that they want to have. That's running the football and stopping the run, running the football and stopping the run, running the football and stopping the run. Two of the main things in regards to football, in my opinion, in regards to winning football. You have to be able to run the ball. You have to be able to stop the run. I really feel like Gus tried to, from an offensive standpoint, Gus try to rather establish the line of scrimmage, establish the running attack. And if you look at Gus throughout the years, I know you guys probably tired of hearing me saying it's like a broken record, but UCF had, I want to say, a top 10 rushing attack the last 3 years. Going back to his Auburn days, he was known for running the football as well too. So you have that type of mindset. In regards to Tony White, when he was at Nebraska, Nebraska was one of the best rush defenses in the country. I mean, they were stellar, damn good at stopping the run. It's a mentality, like he stated. If you look at his press conferences, he was very adamant in regards to stopping the run and all that type of stuff. Yeah, and there was a direct quote he had recently about defensive ends. Yeah, you get to rush the passer and all that type of deal, but that's a privilege, to actually, how can I put this, to actually, stonewall somebody, extend the play, get them off you, and make a tackle for loss. Yeah, show me you can do that. And Tony White echoed that throughout spring. And with that comes a physical mentality, right? So going to both sides, both coaches, and just hearing from third party sources and things like that. This spring practice was one of the most physical, probably the most physical spring practice that has been held on the Mike Norvell. And I've been to a couple of spring practices, practices in general, and those guys do get after it from a physical standpoint. But this spring was more of an emphasis on being physical, being tough, fighting through, and being, like I said, being physical on a consistent basis, play by play, pretty much taking the will of your opponent by imposing imposing your will on the opponent by being physical in regards to the attack. So that's a good thing as well. Now, the downside of that in regards to what happened, we had a lot of injuries in spring practice, not to sugarcoat it. Offensive line, the offensive line transfers that we brought in, they didn't really get to have the cohesion, which was probably one of my main, I don't want to say negatives, but one of my main concerns out of spring practice. But of course, we have fall camp, is that we didn't really have any continuity on the offensive line from the likely starters due to being banged up. And that goes for receivers were banged up as well. So running backs were banged up, guys on defense. Just overall, this spring practice, we had a lot of nicks and bruises for guys to, end spring practice and cut things off. Now, the good thing about that is none of these injuries are lingering injuries that carry on the fall camp, or injuries that will um, hinder anything for like season ending injuries and anything along those lines. So that's a good thing. We don't really have that type of situation. But at the same dang time, we really didn't see, from a rep standpoint, from certain guys that didn't get those reps. But I do appreciate the the coordinators pretty much trying to establish their, I don't want to say dominance, but they pretty much gain respect from the guys, establish their presence, establish the type of mentality they want, the type of offense and defense they want, and being physical is pretty much one of the main things that stood out to me. We'll jump into the quarterbacks really quick. Mike Norvell did state in his closing press conference in regards to spring practice that he was pleased with all three quarterbacks. Thomas Castellano had some good days in regards where he was just hitting on all cylinders and things like that. And he also had some inconsistent days. And when I say inconsistent days, he has the ample arm strength to make throws. He could pretty much make all the throws, but making all the throws consistently from an accuracy standpoint has been an issue. Um, but again, like I said, it's up and down days. Well, not say up and down days. Some days he's been great. Yeah, just being consistent within the accuracy is something we want to work on towards going into the fall and things like that. But like I stated, he has a lot of good days and then some days just kind of inconsistent in regards to accuracy, which was kind of expected coming in. When he uses his legs, Thomas Castellano can be dynamic. He could be a big time playmaker for FSU in the fall. Mike Norvell and Gus Malzahn knows that in regards to what he can do. Of course, spring practice, the quarterbacks aren't live, so you don't get the full picture, but you can see the glimpses. And there were certain situations to where he could just go and take off. And I do feel like he would have full reins to do that in the season if things break down and he feel like he needs to make something out of nothing. He could definitely make something out of nothing with his legs, and that's been hell going back to last year. That was one of our biggest challenges is just mobility within the quarterbacks due to lack of blocking with the offensive line and things like that. So Thomas is a playmaker. He can extend a lot of plays and do make something out of nothing. So that's going to be something to watch for FSU in the fall. Kevin Sperry, the true freshman. This kid turned a lot of heads. If you guys remember, FSU did a late flip from Kerry Sperry from Oklahoma due to a quarterback position need, due to a decommitment. It felt like it was a blessing in disguise because Kevin Sperry, excuse me, he'll be a stud for FSU, in my opinion. He's going to be a stud. He had a really good grasp of the offense. He's dynamic with his legs as well, which surprised a lot of people. And has a pretty lively arm. Now, of course, he has some freshman. How can I put this? He has some freshman reps or freshman moments rather to where you're like, okay, what are you doing? Or you should do this or you should do that. But he was open to the growth. He was open to the development, open to the coaching. And you see a lot of potential in Kevin Sperry. I don't know why the hell I keep saying Kerry, but Kevin Sperry. Luke Pettybaum, I really think he could be one of our most important transfers. He's going to be a huge upgrade from the previous center position, from the previous center. Does a lot of things good, real command of the offense, put people in position, getting the offensive line within the right sets and those type of things. I think Luke Pettybaum is going to be a gem for FSU. The transfer from Wake Forest. From the receiver standpoint, Deuce Robinson, he's going to be receiver one for FSU. He's a complete stud. Made a lot of plays left and right. He's a big time playmaker. Now he did suffer a injury in the middle of spring, in which Mike Norvell elected to go ahead and shut him down for the remainder of spring. But from the sources I've been told, there's nothing that was detrimental or something that linger on. If FSU was in the midst of a season and had to play, Deuce Robinson would be going for FSU. But again, he's a big time playmaker, big body. He can do a lot of good things for FSU. They love what he brings to the table. Um, Javon Boggs, a true freshman, as you guys know, the highly productive receiver out of Cocoa Beach, won Mr. Florida his junior year, 2,000 yards receiving this past year, broke the state record for most receiving yards in the game with over 370 and 3 touchdowns in that game, might I add. That carried over to FSU. He was making a lot of plays for FSU. It was a seamless transition. Body-wise, he's fit to play. He looks like he's already been in the program. So you have good development in high school because Cocoa is a damn good program. Then you bring him to FSU, and that should only blossom. The more reps he get, the more familiar he gets with the offense, the better he would be. I think Boggs will have an impact for FSU this year, even as a true freshman. Jalen Lucas is a guy that the staff is very excited to get back. Very excited to get back. Made a lot of plays. He's a dynamic playmaker. Really shifted a lot of speed. You guys saw the flashes in a few games he did play the FSU due to the season injury. Before the season ended injury, rather. I do think Gus is going to find a lot of ways to get him the ball and get him involved within the offense. And of course, we know he's a dynamic returner during his time at Indiana, as he was the Big Ten returner of the year and was an All-American as a kick returner as well. Moving on to the defense a little bit, I think the defense could be a lot better than what it was within the 2024 season, simply because of Tony White. I'm a real big fan of Tony White, guys, a really big fan. I think he's a really good leader of men. I think he has a bright future, possibly a head coach down the line. but just from a mentality standpoint and how he likes to attack. He's always on the attack, and that's a complete 180 from Adam Fuller when it was more so a passive type of style of defense. Want to stop the pass first versus stopping the run. We always had a lot of too high safeties. It's the complete opposite with Tony White. We're going to stop the damn run first and make you pass. And then when you pass, you got to deal with FSU caliber DBs within the secondary. And of course, we're going to have pass rushers to get after the quarterback. So I really like Tony mindset as far as stopping the run first. He makes it an emphasis to be aggressive, be the attacker on defense versus letting things kind of come to you on defense, which is kind of what Adam Fuller did. And just from a schematic standpoint as well, we were pretty predictable on defense for hell since Adam Fuller been there. You know what the secondary is going to do. They're going to be in your face, press coverage, jamming, playing man, and doing those things. With Tony White, it's a lot of mixing and matching. It's a lot of zone pressures. It's a lot of zone itself, a lot of man coverage, a lot of disguises. So pre-snap, you can see one thing, and post-snap, you can see a completely different look in regards to the coverage, which, messes with the quarterbacks. And that can do wonders for a young quarterback or a first-year starting quarterback, which we have at Alabama game one. Well, I'm not going to get into right now, but that's just something for you guys to think about. New quarterback in Doak Campbell Stadium. I really think Tony White is going to try to confuse and throw different looks. And that's just throughout the season. He's that type of defensive coordinator. FSU really think they hit on the portal on the defensive line additions they had and the linebacker additions they had. The linebackers are really good. The linebackers are probably the most far along position group on the defense. Elijah Herring, he's been a dog, straight dog. Big time playmaker from Tennessee and Memphis. Probably the most important get from the linebacker standpoint within the portal. It was a seamless transition coming to FSU. He's making plays left and right. And Omar Graham, as you guys know, I was very critical of Omar Graham after that Georgia Tech game in Week 1 in Ireland. It was probably the worst, one of the worst linebacker games I've seen played at FSU. How did he respond? He responded greatly, had a huge impact down the stretch of the season. Was one of our best defenders within the last quarter of the season, and that has carried over into spring practice. So Omar Graham was looked to have a pretty good year as well. But again, like I said, Tony White loves the athleticism within our defensive back room. He stated multiple times that, this is a gold mine. This DBU, right? It's FSU. The type of caliber athletes we have on the back end can do a lot of different things and bring a lot of different matchups. From a defensive back standpoint, we did add one corner. And the reason being, I felt like we have a lot of young, talented guys within the room, but we needed that vet to kind of come in and take things off of the top. We did add a corner out of the transfer portal, big time playmaker, one of the better playmakers within the transfer portal. Played at Houston. He also played under Tony White at Syracuse. It's crazy, right? Tony White recruited him to Syracuse, and he committed to Syracuse. Ended up transferring from Syracuse to Houston. Made a lot of plays for Houston. Had 4 interceptions this past year, along with 4 pass breakups. And he was one of the highest graded defensive backs within PFF. Had an 86 overall grade, which is damn good. So you have interception playmaking ability. And Jeremiah Wilson, that's the cornerback's name. Sorry, I know I made a video on him previously, but Jeremiah Wilson is the transfer cornerback. His last year eligibility, a lot of playmaking. He's good at, like I said, what Tony White wants, reading the defense, being off, playing off coverage, and that type of deal, and making plays on the ball. And when I say we need the DB, it was a struggle for some DBs on the team to kind of transition from what Adam Fuller wanted from the defensive backs to what Tony White wanted from the defensive backs as far as a cornerback position. When I say that, it's more so like, just to give you guys a breakdown. When you're in man coverage, well, in the Adam Fuller type of skill, you're pretty much playing man coverage, and that's more of a reaction-based type of coverage. You're reacting to the receiver's movement, doing things like that, trying to dictate where the receiver go in that type of deal and use your leverage. When it comes to zone coverage, it's completely different. You have to use your eyes more in regards to reading the whole situation. So you're pretty much in off coverage. You want to read 2 to 1 or 1 to 2. When I say reading 2 to 1 or 1 to 2, 2 is your slot receiver and 1 is usually your X or your Z receiver. So, and of course, like I said, so your slot receiver is Y. So you're reading 2 to 1 or 1 to 2, depending on the coverage. If I'm lined up at a cornerback spot and I'm reading 1 to 2, I'm looking at what this receiver is doing and what this receiver is doing that's in the slot, just to see if it's crosses, whatever may come on within my zone, whatever that zone may be. You're looking at certain areas, you're looking for certain players to come within that area. And you're also reading the quarterback as well. So you're reading 2-1 or 1-2. You're reading the quarterback too. So you're using a lot of play with your eyes, right? Your eyes. You have to have a lot of eye discipline in zone coverage. You have to have instincts in zone coverage, kind of reading things. So it's completely different from a man coverage type of scheme, to where you're just focusing solely on this receiver, his movement, and that type of deal, to a zone coverage to where you're seeing the whole picture, looking at one receiver, two receivers, maybe three receivers, a tight end, whatever it may be, pretty much everything on that side. And sometimes guys that aren't even on your side coming across field, you have to be wary of that and just know what type of route combinations, you want to get with certain coverages. So that was a struggle for certain defensive backs, which I understand. You played man coverage throughout 2 to 3 years at Florida State. Your first spring practice, hey, let's do a little bit of zone. You're going to be reading a little bit more. That can be a struggle for certain guys. You got to backpedal and that type of deal too. We only had less than 15 practices due to the situation. So more coaching will go on within the summer and of course fall camp. But Jeremiah Wilson, he's already familiar with that and knows what it takes to be that type of corner within Tony White's system. But again, I really like just some cliff notes for the defense. The safeties are pretty good as well. I think the mindset that the coaches instilled will carry over. Now, like I said, we had some nicks and bruises to where we didn't really see all of the guys we wanted to see as far as getting reps and getting continuity. That's not ideal, but it's not a complete deal breaker where all bets are off, due to the fact that it's only spring practice. We got the summer, we got fall camp. Nothing is carrying over to the season. Guys, I want you to let me know in the comments, what's your biggest concern post-spring for FSU? What position do you have the biggest concern about going into the season? Let me know in the comments. We have a discussion about it. Again, make sure you guys like this video and subscribe to the channel. Go Noles.